Hello and welcome to Budgets and Blossom. My name is Jen, and on today's episode we are going to be doing my first ever budget with me. And in full transparency, when I'm actually setting up my budget, I have the same setup, but I actually have it in a Google Sheets document so that I can plug in formulas and see my numbers in real time as they're changing and altering. But I'm going to go ahead and go through my numbers as I broke them down for February. So what I like to do, so in our household, we get paid on a bi-weekly basis. That's every other week, right? Bi-weekly basis? Yes. Okay, yes. So we get paid on a bi-weekly basis. So we get paid every other week. And so that's how we manage our bills. But I do like, since I've been doing this cash stuffing, I do like to come in on a weekly basis and stuff my categories, especially like my wallet categories. Some of these other categories, the reason why I stuff every week is to create content to help you guys with your budget. So if I wasn't doing this for you guys, I may just stuff these other categories that go in my binder every other week when we get paid. But just to keep it interesting for you guys, I do like to show up every week because I think that it is crucial to have your wallet categories budgeted out every week so that way it makes it more, makes it less likely that you're going to overspend. It makes it easier to budget, because I guess where I'm coming from with this is when I was a child, I remember one of my best friend's families, I want to say they probably got paid every month was when they got their check, and it was a single mother household with 2 daughters. And by the end of the month, every month, she was just scraping for money to try and buy them food. And so I think by doing a system like this, it really prevents you from really having to stretch that far, and lets you kind of manage your money a little bit better. So if you're in a situation like that where it's at the end of the month and you're really struggling, break your money that you have out for groceries out into smaller segments so that way you can make sure that you have money in those categories throughout the month. One of the reasons I think that a lot of us, even if we are doing our own cash stuffing journey, one of the reasons that we like to watch this is we love to see other people's finances. And I am no different there. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we are going to see what a month of spending looks like for me and my household. And since this is a full month spread, it did fit on 2 pages. So just a really quick overview. Here's where I will list out my income for the month. These are the bills, which is the money for our family that we keep in the bank so that we can pay those directly. And then all of these other categories are the ones that we pull out in cash to do our cash stuffing. So to make this a little bit easier on myself, it's a little bit hard to write with this spine here in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over so we can work on 1 page at a time. Hopefully you guys can still see that okay. Okay, I think you can. Okay, so I would say that our household is loosely following the Dave Ramsey method of cash stuffing, or, budgeting rules in general, I guess. So we did go ahead and account for $1,000 emergency fund. And I know that the concept of keeping an emergency fund is that you put it away in like a savings account and you don't touch it at all. For us, and the way that it works out is that it's actually going to be something that I keep in my checking account as kind of like our buffer. And that will help pad us, because in our bills categories that you'll see, we're actually a little bit heavier on the front end of the month than we are on the back side of the month. But as long as we start the month with our 1,000 and we end the month with our 1,000, then that is fine for me as far as the zero-based budgeting method goes. So, and for this month, so we have one of our bills, our trash bill, that we pay every other month. So I budget $45 a month for that. So I actually budgeted January's, and my balance forward this month is actually $1,045. You know, that's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to grab my darker pen here. All right. So we're actually starting out this month with $1,045 for our household. And then by the end of this month, since we're actually going to pay our trash bill this month, our ending balance will be $1,000. So our income is every other week we get $3,020. And so we will get that check on January 30th and then again on February 13th. And so that's a total of $6,040 for the entire month. And then the bills that come out, the first portion are our mortgage, which is $23.13. We have a savings transfer that comes out of $25. And that's just something that we had to establish for our checking account when we set it up so that we didn't have to pay a monthly fee on that. And then our Equinox car payment of $437 comes out at the beginning of the month as well. And our final payment that comes out with our first part of the bills is, let's see, our water, and we budget $100 a month for our water bill. And so that's all that we're going to pay with our first check. And so the way that I've set this up, just so that you guys know, and it's something you guys can think about for your own finances, is I've already gone through the entire calendar year and designated what checks go where, because we do get 2 extra checks during the year. And I know a lot of people call that a magic month. But for us, it doesn't necessarily fall in the months where you have that actual extra check that lands within the month. I just go through the calendar, and because like I said, our bills are kind of scheduled on a 1st and a 15th basis is kind of the way that it works. So like this January 30th check is going to go to pay any bills that hit us between February 1st and February 14th. And then this check that comes in on February 13th will go to pay for any bills that hit between February 15th and February 28th. Okay, so we have those bills that were for the 1st through the 15th, and the ones that we pay on that second half are the Edge, which is $357. Our trash, which for the $45 that we pulled over from last month and this month is $90. Natural gas is $150 that we budget. $200 for electric. Phones $110, internet $110, and car insurance is $290. So let's go ahead and grab our calculator and add these up. You guys see that okay there? Probably not. What if we put it on this side? It's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so let's try this with my left hand. So for our bills, it's 2313 plus 25, 437, and 100, which is $2,875 that we're going to keep in the bank at least for the first half of the month. And then 357 plus 90, 150, 200, 110, 110, and 290 is 1,000. I have a different number here, let's see. So for the second half of the month, it's 357, 90, 150, 200, 110, 110, and 290 equals $1,307. for the second half of the month that we need to make sure we keep in the bank. And then so I spent weeks and weeks and weeks really figuring out what our budget was going to look like. And so when I did that, it was pulling up statements from the previous months and figuring out what our, what our mortgage payment was, our car payments were, all of our utility bills on kind of an average basis. And then also looking at all of like our annual subscriptions and monthly subscriptions that come out. And so these totals here are what I've figured out are what we need to take out on a monthly basis to cover these. These two are monthly bills that come out, but they come out on my credit card. So that's why I actually do them in my bills binder. And then the rest of these are on an annual basis. So I figured out what the amount is divided by 12, and then this is what I need to take out per month. So car wash, we get 15, 15, 15, and 21. And then 5, 5, 10, and 11. Memberships is 40 for the month, and that's 10 a week. HOA is 55 for the month, and so that is 10, 15, 15, and 15. Car registration is 70 for the month, which is 15, 15, 20, 20. And I do try to keep my, if I'm breaking it up, I don't like to use ones a lot when I am cash stuffing. So I try to keep the lower amount towards the front end of the month and then any higher amounts at the end. Just because, like I said, more bills come out the first part of the month than they do the second part of the month. So I just try to balance that out a little bit. And then this is a new category that I'm adding for February that I hadn't had in my January binder. So I will be adding this, and it's extra taxes. So I had gone on the IRS website because they have like a tax estimator thing and had run that little simulator. And in previous years, so this past year, my husband had gotten a new job. He basically started like January 1st of 2025. So this is the first year of like a full salary from this new company. And the previous company he had been with for like 12 years. And so I think we must have had them pulling out extra money every month because we were always getting a large refund every tax season. And when I ran this simulator for the 2025 year, it kind of shocked me a little bit because we're kind of like right there at a break-even point with what we've paid versus, what we'll actually do once we file our taxes. So it kind of makes me a little bit worried. So I've decided to start pulling out an extra $50 a month in taxes. Instead of making that like a payroll deduction, I figure we could just keep that on our side. And then that way that we have it as a little cushion in the event that we do need it. So for that, the extra $50, we'll do 10, 10, 15, and 15. And let's get those totals for each week. 5, 10, 10, 15, and 10 gives us 65 for the first week. And then 15, 5, 10, 15, 15, and 10. For the second week is 70. We have 15, 10, 10, 15, 20, and 15 is 85 for this week. And the final week, we have 21, 11, 10, 15, 20, and 15 is 92 for that final week in the month for our cash stuffing. Let's go ahead and turn this over and then go to our other categories. And so, and I kind of, when I am doing my budget, I figure out what categories, by the way, are kind of the most, I guess you want to say like important or critical for us. So in the first, we budgeted out for all of our bills. In that second little section, we budgeted out for like our annual and additional monthly bills that come out on the credit card. And now we're getting into our like wallet categories, which are going to be like our grocery, eating out, household, fuel, and dog food. And then our final setup will kind of be our fun, which is our, spending categories. And these ones are very muchly so, we can do without. So in the event that anything ever changed with our budget, this is an easy section for us to come and say, hey, we can skip that this month, this week, whatever it is that we need to do if we are ever in a pinch. So this is what really makes me comfortable, knowing that we have all these extra amounts that are kind of padding in our budget. And so that's why I was saying, like at the beginning, so we had that $1,000, and even though it's not really in line with Dave Ramsey's, like keeping that emergency fund and keeping it separate and not touching it, in theory, all of these accounts that we're saving for, these are all also little mini emergency funds, as far as the way I see it. So even though we have that base of 1,000, we also have the amounts that are already in here. And just in the month of January, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I know it's $300 and something in these categories alone that we have left over. So it just goes to show you that as you go through the months and as you do this, you are going to start building up little extra emergency funds that allow you to pull for these categories. And honestly, even if you messed up and you're like, oh, you know what, Maple had a bigger, we had kind of been saving for her vet bill, but we had to take her to the vet, and ended up being more than we had in our account. We can pull from these other funds, because there are also other little mini savings accounts that we've set up, because these are all, it's all stuff that we've decided in our budget are things that are important to us, and we've kind of put these amounts in here. So we can also adjust these as time goes on. So for me, the most important categories are, like I said, this wallet category and the other two categories we did on the other page. That's kind of like more of our baseline budget, and this is kind of all the extra stuff in my opinion. And some of them are more important than others, like car maintenance and things like that, but none of it's stuff that we can, that we can't live without. If we needed to just get by, these things that we've already budgeted for are the things that are going to keep us going. So groceries, we've been doing this now for about 3 months with this $500, and it's actually working out to be a good amount for us. So $125, and it is just me and my husband. We don't have any children yet, and our dog Maple. So we don't have a family of 4 that we're feeding or anything else. So if you do, please don't compare your numbers to ours. And then this month, we do have a birthday. Budget a little bit heavy here for eating out. So we're going to do 100 that first week, and then 40 for the rest of the months. And then household, we do 100 for the month. So that'll be 25 per week. Fuel, I don't get fuel that often. I stay pretty close to home. I budget $100. I don't really ever come close to that unless it starts being months like, when we have holidays and things like that, where we go out of town to visit with family. But I do like to keep that budgeted amount at $100, and I just stuff 50 every other week when we get paid for that. Because this actually ends up coming out of our credit card. I normally get gas at Costco. So I just pay on my credit card, and then we'll put this into my spent folder or spent envelope in my wallet once I've actually filled up my tank. And then Maple gets $30 a week. And let's go ahead and add up our wallet categories. 125, 100, 25, 50, and 30. So the first week is 330. I have a cheat sheet over here to my side, so I'm just making sure I'm double checking those numbers to make sure I've got everything right. Alrighty, second week is $220. $270 for a third week. And $220 again for the final week of February's budget for our wallet categories. And so now our spending binder. So I've also gone ahead here and decided how much we are doing per month on these. And this one actually is pretty easy because we take out the same amount for each category every week. And so it's $10 a week for this, $50 for home maintenance, $10 for maple, $30. This is actually a little bit heavier than it will be each month, but I do need to do a bulk shopping trip. We need some meat and some household items to stock up, so padded that a little bit this month. And then self-care, we do 10 a week. Same for clothing. Espresso is going to get 5 a week. And I do have a coupon, so I'm going to probably place an order here pretty soon so I could just get a few of those. Gifts is getting 5 a week. And then Christmas will get 10 a week. And it really helps that we don't have kids, so these categories can stay pretty small for the gifts. We do have a niece and several nephews, so that's where that money goes, but our budget's pretty tight when it comes to those things. So we have 10, 50, 10, 30, 5, 10, 10, 5, 5, and 10. So that is 145, and like I said, those weeks are all the same. So we will just go ahead and carry that across. And so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is, let's go ahead and open this back up really quick. See if we can kind of get all the things happening here on the screen. Alrighty, I think that'll work. And I really hope that you guys can see all of this okay, by the way. Okay. So what I go ahead and do is I like to make sure that when I'm adding up both of these categories for the first 2 weeks, that in my balance, I'm not going less than 0, obviously, because that's going to account for my balance forward that I have as the buffer, less all the expenses. Oh, sorry. Buffer plus the income, less the expenses for the 2 weeks. And so I want to make sure that obviously we're not going negative in our checking account, because that's all that's in there. And then same thing at the end of then the other 2 weeks. This balance that we're transferring over needs to be $1,000 at the end of the month. So we have 1,045 plus 3,020. And so that means we have a balance of $4,065 in the account. And then we subtract 2,875 minus 65. And like I said, I'm doing the 2 weeks. So minus 70 minus 330 minus 220 minus 145 minus 145 equals $215. So that just lets me know that we are that we are okay, that we're not going to be negative in our account before we get paid the next on the 13th. So let's also go ahead and figure out what our cash out balance was there. So we'll do each week. So 65, 330, 145. So the cash that we need to take out for this week is 540. And when I go to the bank, I normally pull out both weeks at the same time. I sit down and break down what my bills will need to be for each week. I take out that full amount, and then so my account will sit at this until we get paid the next time. And that way I have the money on hand, but then I stuff it when it comes time to stuff. Because it can be inconvenient to go to the bank all the time and pull out cash and things like that. Okay, so now we have 70, 220, and 145. So it's 435. That'll come out for that week. And then let's make sure our balance is correct. So it'll be the balance forward will be the 215 plus the 3,020. Okay, so 3,235 minus 1,307 minus 85 minus 92 minus 270 minus 220 minus 145 minus 145 equals okay, so I'm realizing that I'm a little bit off here, and it's because it's throwing me off here because my budgeted amount actually isn't the 90, it's the $45 for this month. Because it's the 45 plus the 45. So it's 357, 45, 150, 200, 110, 110, 290, which is 1262. Okay, so we have the 215 plus the 3020, which is, so that's once we get paid on the 13th, the 3,235 is what we're starting with in our account, and then minus the 1262 minus the 85 minus the 92 minus the 270 minus 220 minus 145 minus 145 equals 1,016. And then so that leaves us $15 to put towards extra debt and $1 to put towards our $1 savings challenge. So minus 15 minus 1 equals $1,000. So that's what we'll carry over to the next month. We'll see if that all makes sense when it actually comes time for me to pay the bills, but that's what I had in my spreadsheet when I went back and looked at it. So I know my way may not be the most straightforward way of doing things, but it's the way that works for me. And that's just to say that whatever way works for you when you're budgeting, do that, because when you're trying to mimic what other people are doing, sometimes if it's not working for you, you're going to get frustrated. So like I said, this way works for me. It's very muchly so a paycheck to paycheck kind of living. And I would like to work it sometime where I can start saving to have a month ahead, or at least one paycheck ahead. So that way I can start putting away 25% of each of my bills every single week. And then that way the money is already there, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like you're a month ahead on all of your bills. That would be nice. It's not our reality at the moment, but thank you guys so much if you have stuck around to the end. I'm sorry if I confused you there at the end. I'll try to remember to pop in a little screenshot of my spreadsheet that I have on Google Sheets so that you can see that. And like I said, it's nice because I have formulas in there that allow me to see the numbers as I'm going through, so I can shift things and adjust things to make the numbers make sense. And thank you so much for joining me. The cash stuffing is really, really, really amazing. And if you have not already tried doing this for yourself, I challenge you to give yourself 3 months. Give yourself 3 months of trying the process. And if it doesn't work, go back to doing what you're doing, which, like I said, these categories that are extra little mini savings accounts are really going to help for the future. And really even these categories for the annual memberships, these ones are all extra savings accounts too, because most of us, we're scrambling to find the money when those things actually hit our bank account on the month that they come out. And we've normally forgot about them. And then it's like, oh crap, that thing hit. And, those are the kind of things that always throw off your spending and make you have to put money on credit cards. So do yourself the favor, actually build a budget for yourself and try to live intentionally with your money. I hope that your finances flourish this year, and I wish you the best. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.